The sequel to Sword and Axe LLC's 2021 title, Dark Deity, is springing into action this March, which should beckon tactical turn-based strategy fans out of hibernation. The original, which was met with mixed reviews, still remains at a mostly positive on Steam to this day, but clearly leaves some room for improvement. Does Dark Deity 2 deliver on the promise of its predecessor, allowing it to bloom into the perfect follow-up, or is this sequel best left on the compost pile? Before we get down to business, please take a moment to like and subscribe so you don't miss the review of your next favorite indie game. And if you're a fan of escaping the echo chamber and exploring the exciting world of indies, head on over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames, where you can get more of the content you already love, plus exclusive perks like early and ad-free shows and Discord access. Your indie gaming community is waiting for you. Dark Deity 2 is a direct sequel to Sword and Axe's original title. Their goal? Take everything that worked from the original and improve upon the pain points, particularly by adding a great deal of customizability. About 25 years have passed since the occurrences of the first title, and the Eternal Delegation is now led by Irving's descendants Gwyn and Riordian. Irving did his best to restore order in Varroa and to prevent further unrest, but there are some threats even the biggest heroes cannot prepare for. Political unrest and war in a fantasy environment? Tell me if you've heard this one before. Some of the first evidence of the customizability in Dark Deity 2 are presented in the menus before you even begin. You can choose from a few different difficulty options depending on your comfort and familiarity with turn-based strategy. Mortal is for those who are newer to SRPGs or just not looking for a stressful experience, while Demonic is for those with a death wish. From there, you can choose from original and relaxed styles of gameplay, with relaxed removing turn limits as a loss condition. Finally, you're presented with options for how your heroes level up, either rolled or linear. You can adjust the difficulty and settings from the system menu, which you'll find on the map and before battles. While that is certainly not where the customizations end, it is definitely a great place to start, and it ensures that all levels of strategy fans are accommodated, which is a fantastic touch. I opted for the standard difficulty, but did end up turning off turn limits because I hate leaving loot and enemies on the battlefield, and I don't like the pressure of having to tie things up in a fixed amount of turns. Sue me. Dark Deity 2 is broken up into chapters, with each chapter featuring significant story development followed by a battle, which in turn is followed by more story. From the map and prior to each battle, you'll be able to make changes to your party and equipment, changing out weapons, equipping runes and rings, upgrading skills and character stats, creating bonds between heroes, and changing their classes, of which there are 45 in all. Look, when I tell you these developers wanted to make things customizable, I meant it. Once in battle, Dark Deity 2 plays like many of the classic tactical RPGs you know and love. You're able to move each character within the constraints of their grid and then perform an action. This action can be a standard attack, like the swing of a sword, or a projectile hurled at an enemy a tile or two away. Or you can choose an ability, like healing yourself or a comrade, applying a perk, or really bringing the pain with a special attack. Each battlefield has its own objectives, which can vary slightly, but are generally either taking out a boss or seizing the territory. If you run out of turns or let Gwyn die, the battle is over and you will begin again from your most recent save. Some battles have additional tasks for the ambitious heroes to complete, but those tasks are purely optional, only earning you bragging rights and perhaps some additional loot. Once you're victorious and the plot has progressed, you'll return to the map before your next chapter. From the map, you'll also be able to opt into training battles that won't advance the story but will make you stronger, as well as challenge battles that can be very lucrative. Throughout the story, the player will also need to make some difficult decisions when it comes to who to help and who to trust, and these choices will impact how your run shakes out. These decisions also rely on you paying attention to what is at stake and, to some degree, the story in general, which isn't necessarily Dark Deity 2's strongest point. To be blunt, the story did not grab me, and a lot of that has to do with the cast of characters that I didn't find all that compelling. While some characters have interesting backstories, like Saxon, a newcomer that may not be as green as he first appears, the majority of the cast is rather dull, and most of them don't do enough to stand out from one another. A lot of characters read as worn-out tropes that other games and movies have done before, and perhaps a bit better, which sways the whole story to the generic side of things. It's not insufferable by any means, you just might find yourself skipping through the story scenes to get to the meat and potatoes. Regardless of how I feel about the story, I do appreciate the replay value this adds. Dark Deity 2's gameplay is really solid, and that's what matters to me the most in an SRPG. Battles can be girthy, which makes them painful to lose if you're not properly set up for success, but my failures were typically my own fault. Rushing into a scenario without proper planning and leveling. With turn limits off, these battles could take up to 35 to 40 minutes, which is a far cry from the last strategy game we covered on this channel, Knights and Tight Spaces. If you're a fan of shorter, more concise battles, that is definitely one to check out. The art direction in Dark Deity 2 is a modest improvement upon the original Dark Deity, with more detailed pixel art battlefields, combat taking up more of the screen, and menus that more appropriately match the overall tone and feel of the game. The anime-esque portrait art is similar to the original, but overall Dark Deity 2 comes across as the more cohesive product. The game also features voice acting to mixed results, with some voices just not jiving with the character designs or their intended ages.
You seem to be keeping up just fine.
Yeah, only because I'm going double time to catch up with you.
Also, I don't know how else to say this, but Benji's character sounds exactly how I would imagine my dog would sound if someone foolishly granted him the ability of human speech. And I don't know how to feel about that.
Bad news! Benji has already been defeated! This has never happened before.
Some sections omit the voice acting entirely, like when you work on character bonds, and to be honest, I didn't miss it too much when it wasn't there. Voice acting is great in theory, but it does often slow down the pace of the game. The soundtrack is a nicely orchestrated offering of your standard RPG fare, complete with strings and soaring guitars, but doesn't do much to stand out from the crowd either. All in all, Dark Deity 2 is a decent option if you're hungry for tactical turn-based combat that won't break the bank. I think it's going to be hard for this title to not draw comparisons to other classic turn-based tactical RPGs like Shining Force, for example, but that doesn't make it a bad option if you're a fan of the genre already. It's kind of like the off-brand version of your favorite snack. The gameplay is fun enough to scratch that tactical itch, but it does leave you hankering for the real thing. Maybe you won't be thinking about these characters long after your gameplay session, but you will still find yourself eagerly awaiting your next lengthy battle. Here at I Dream of Indie Games, we have a lamp tiering system with bronze, silver, and gold lamps representing good, great, and essential games respectively. We also have the Rusty Lantern for titles with a glimmer of promise, and the Indie Krampus for the games we don't like to talk about anymore. Since Dark Deity 2 shows us quality where it counts, I am awarding this title the Bronze Genie Lamp of Approval.
It's beautiful. You live here?
Sure do. And you will too, if Father gives you the go-ahead.
For far too long, you, the gamer, have been denied honest gaming coverage. Indie developers and publishers have lost their voice, but no longer. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames to join this epic campaign for indie visibility. The echo chamber trembles as our message grows louder. Voice to the voiceless.